Now, the rise in the number of migrants trying to cross the English Channel in small boats has grabbed the attention of the Home Secretary, who has now declared it a major incident.
There is concern it's just a matter of time before people lose their lives. So ministers are going to meet with Border Force officials in Dover today to discuss the situation. Well, we can talk to former Director General of the UK Border Force, Tony Smith, now, who joins us from our London studio. Thank you very much for joining us, Tony Smith. Tony, what's going to be discussed today between the Home Office Minister and officials? What will they talk about in terms of what can be improved, what can be done?
Well, the decision to create a major incident is a significant one for the Border Force. What that means, in effect, is that a dedicated team will be put upon this particular issue. The Border Force has lots of other things to deal with. We manage all of the ports of entry, people and goods coming into the country, holiday season at the airport. So this does now mean that there will be a dedicated team, probably across Home Office team, not just the Border Force, and indeed potentially across Whitehall team, put on the issue, reporting directly to the Home Secretary. And I'm sure today's visit to the troops down in Dover will be part of that process in building that team and that collaboration to deal with this particular problem.
So it means more resources to tackle this problem?
Certainly on a temporary basis, yes. You know, we have to prioritise inevitably because there's so much going on at the border, but this indicates that this has been recognised by ministers as an area for priority. We haven't seen this concerted attempt to cross the English Channel in small boats before. It's pretty well unprecedented in these numbers. We've seen the isolated incidents, but this has been ongoing, and a significant number over the holiday period means that the Home Office and the Border Force are obviously taking this very seriously.
When Sajid Javid says he wants a phone call with his counterpart in France, what will that involve? What does he need to say, or what needs to be discussed now in order to tackle this problem? Because it's less, the sympathies are certainly with those who are fleeing countries where they're being persecuted or where the situation is so dire they need to move, but it's obviously not with those who are taking advantage of these people.
Yeah, borders work best when you have trust and collaboration on both sides of them, in my experience, and that's what he'll be discussing, is how can the French law enforcement agencies and the British law enforcement agencies work together to stop the boats, because we must stop the boats. If we don't stop the boats, people will perish. But a lot of the activity required will be on the French side of the Channel. That's where the boats are being stolen or commandeered. That's where the organised crime gangs are operating. So we will need activity on the French side to get to the root of the problem. And I'm sure he will be promoting joint working, and I expect that the new task force will be working very, very closely with our friends and colleagues in France to stop this human smuggling.
In your experience, we've been using the word surge, a rise or a surge in the number of boats. What do you think's driving this now?
Well, there have been a couple of reports by the independent Chief Inspector of Immigration and Borders in the last year or two about our coastal defences, and actually in some respects we're victims of our own success, because we have done rather well in Calais in stopping the traditional routes in the backs of lorries through enhanced port security there, and also at the French feeder ports to stop people getting on board ferries illegally. So the smugglers aren't going to give up. They're going to keep trying, and I think this is another attempt by them to try and breach our defences, and we are relatively weak in terms of coastal maritime defences. So this is going to be a big test for us in being able to defend the border against this particular threat.
But why a surge now? Why an increase now?
Well, because I think there is still pressure to come here, but we're doing rather well on the more traditional routes, and so people are still very desperate to get into the UK, because once this works and we see one boat succeed and another succeeds, we've seen this in the Mediterranean, then that can very quickly open up the floodgates, if you like, and more will come, and so that's why we need to stop the smugglers now before this gets out of hand.
OK. Tony Smith, former Border Force Director General. It's been really interesting talking to you. Thanks very much for your insights for us this morning on Breakfast.
It's 7:30.